The Ancient Days by William Blake. William Blake was born in 1757 in London, England. He began writing at an early age and claimed to have had his first vision of a tree full of angels at age 10. He studied engraving and grew to love Gothic art, which he incorporated into his own unique works. A misunderstood poet, artist, and visionary, throughout much of his life, Blake found admirers late in life and has been vastly influential since his death in 1827. Blake was a deeply religious man. He despised the official art of the academics and declined to accept its standards. Like medieval artists, he did not care for accurate representations. He also admired Michelangelo's figure of the Lord and his image of the creation. Blake was one of the first artists after the Renaissance who thus consciously revolted against the accepted standards of tradition. The title of the subject is The Ancient Days. Here we see Urizen, the embodiment of reason and law, holding a compass in which he is measuring and containing the universe. While our first look may draw parallels between this fictional deity and Zeus, or influenced by the God of the Old Testament, he is really anything but. The Urizen is more an embodiment of the prideful man or the fallen angel than he is of the God of Scripture. Some questions to think about when looking at this picture is, are we looking at a representation of ourselves or the desire to be the masters of our own domain, constantly measuring, judging, and reasoning our way through life?
The Ancient of the Days. It was executed in 1794. The method that William Blake used is called relief etching with watercolor. Relief etching is a process in which the design is drawn in acid resistant varnish and the non-printing surface etched away with acid, so that the printing surface stands out in relief. Watercolor is a painting method in which the paints are made of pigments suspended in water-based solution. Watercolor refers to both the medium and resulting artwork. In the late 18th century, William Blake published several books of hand-tinted engraved poetry, provided illustrations to Dante's Inferno, and he also experimented with large monotype works in watercolor.
The size of the original painting of the Ancient of Days in absolute measure is 23 centimeters by 17 centimeters. The old man is comparable to the sun behind him. Because of this, we can assume that the man was made gigantic in size to a significance of how great and powerful he is. The Ancient of Days was actually a cover illustration for his book of poems, Year of the Prophecy, which Blake published. William Blake claimed that to have created this alluring image based on a vision he had over a staircase while he was living in Lambeth, London. Blake's book deals with the upheavals of Blake's own time. In Europe, the troubles are traced back to the misunderstanding of the true message of Christianity. Under the threatening influence of the harsh law-giving deity, Urizen, Europe develops a repressive and materialistic society that eventually provokes the violent reaction of the French Revolution. The painting shows Urizen measuring out the material world and still serves a religious purpose. It is currently housed at the British Museum in London. His innovative artwork may not have been well received during his lifetime, but today they are considered great masterpieces.
Michelangelo, the creation of Adam. Michelangelo created the creation of Adam. He lived from 1475 to 1564 AD and became one of the most famous Italian Renaissance artists. Though Michelangelo always considered himself more of a sculptor than a painter, he painted one of the most inspiring pieces in the entire art world, the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel in Vatican City. From 1508 to 1512, Michelangelo painted the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel with a series of frescoes that portrayed several biblical stories. Perhaps the most famous image from the ceiling is the creation of Adam, which depicts God giving life to the first human, Adam. His other works include the David and the Pietà statues and the ceiling paintings of Rome's Sistine Chapel, including the Last Judgment. Although he's considered himself a Florentine, Michelangelo lived for the most of his life in Rome, where he died in 1864 at the age of 88. Some of his maybe institutions that influenced his artwork were probably like Pope Julius II, because Pope Julius II wanted Michelangelo to erect a tomb for him that could be worthy of the overlord of Christendom. Pope Julius was a ruthless ruler of the church, and he was a man of great mind, and Michelangelo really worked forward to working for him. The title of the artwork is The Creation of Adam. The subject in the artwork are Adam and God. Although there are other figures in the artwork, it is not quite clear who they are. However, speculations say that one of the figures next to God is Eve or the Virgin Mary. Michelangelo proved himself to be a master in his illustrations of biblical themes, which form the centra of composition.
The creation of Adam, it was executed in between 1508 and 1512. It was a cornerstone work of high Renaissance art. Michelangelo was one of the most famous artists during that period of time, and a lot of art pieces during Renaissance is to do with Christianity and church. And the material that is used is fresco. It is a technique of mural painting executed upon freshly laid or wet lime plaster. Water is used as the vehicle for the pigment to merge with the plaster, and with the setting of the plaster, the painting becomes an integral part of the wall. The word fresco is derived from the Italian subject fresco meaning fresh, and may thus be contrasted with fresco secco or secco mural painting techniques, which are applied to dried plaster. To supplement painting in fresco, the fresco technique has been employed since antiquity and is closely associated with Italian Renaissance painting.
The size of the painting of the creation of Adam in absolute measure is 280 centimeters by 570 centimeters. Adam on the left and God on the right are both significantly big because the image depicts God giving life to Adam, the first mankind. Additionally, you could see that God has authority because of the angels carrying him as a king would be carried by his servants. The creation of Adam was created for the Sistine Chapel and is still currently located there in the Vatican City. It is one of the 9 ceiling panels in the Sistine Chapel depicting scenes from the Book of Genesis. Michelangelo was originally commissioned to paint the 12 apostles on the triangular pentateuch, but Michelangelo persuaded Pope Julius to allow him to do what he wanted, to propose a different and more complex scheme, representing the creation, the fall of man, the promise of salvation through the prophets, and the genealogy of Christ. The work is part of a larger scheme of decoration within the chapel, which represents much of the doctrine of the Catholic Church. It served and still serves a religious purpose. On November 1st, 1512, the ceiling was revealed to the world. Pope Julius II was pleased, and other assembled audience members were thrilled and awed. It was an astounding, intimidating piece of work. It is renowned and attracts more than 5 million visitors each year.